Well, the genesis of the ATN was a phoenix rising out of the ashes of a body called DOCIT, which was the group of directors of Central Institutes of Technology, which existed when the predecessors of each of the universities was a College of Advanced Education.
A couple of us were getting worried that the group of 8 was dominating the AVCC. The AVCC had been boosted by the new universities, taking the numbers up from 18 to 30 plus, and we were worried that the policies and directions that we wanted to see reflected in universities would be excluded if it was just the group of 8 view.
What was happening was that we'd had major change with the Dawkins Revolution, as it were, but we were shifting back conceptually to a very old-fashioned view of what a university was, the castle on the hill, and all of the other kinds of universities that were doing great work, and particularly the 5 that we had, were being lost in this developing worldview about what a university was in Australia.
There was a quite clear need to have a group of institutions in Australian higher education that were applied in emphasis, that had strong links with the profession, and their research was strongly orientated towards business and industry, and that the ATN group, as they were then, were the basis for that new set of universities.
We were really the first group that started to meet solidly like this. We did it in a very public way, and we did it to really establish, I think, within the system that we had common values, a common background, and a great deal that we were able to share in our development.
Research policy that the AVCC had at the time was directed towards pure research. Now, that didn't fit with the strategy of technological universities. They wanted to be involved in practical outcomes, and applied research has got a very real value and it's essential in universities such as the ATN universities.
Well, I think it was more a feeling that the whole was more than the sum of the parts, that each of the universities had funding difficulties at the time, and we were looking to combine resources in strategic ways.
We also saw it as a way of extending what had been in place for many years before. The directors of what were then the Central Institutes of Technology.
Around the world, there were changes happening in universities. Universities were becoming more applied, more directly related to the world of work, and this was happening in Europe and North America.
This was a time when government was becoming much more demanding of universities, particularly in regard to performance. For many years we'd managed to get by telling the world how good we were, but not necessarily showing how good we were.
Universities have to change in the future, and it would be a much easier thing to do to have 5 universities working together on that change rather than just to have one. And I'm talking about increasing the applied research component, working on the things that are really critical to Australia, identifying them, playing a leading role in establishing what the direction should be, and then implementing groups to do it.
I think it's always trust in groups like this, and it continues to be, I think, for all of these kinds of groups. On the one hand, when we're in a group together, on the other hand, and at another level, we're competing with each other nationally, and building trust and maintaining it across such a large country is quite difficult. I think the ATN conference itself, which brings people together and builds relationships and therefore builds trust so that you get cooperation in research and in teaching projects, is very, very important.
When I look at what's been achieved by the ATN since all of the changes, and particularly in the last decade, I am absolutely astonished at the strength of the system.
I'm aware from time to time of what's happening with the ATN. I think it's been hugely successful, really.
I think it's been extremely effective nationally. It is seen as a major player in the higher education policy landscape. And interestingly enough, I think both sectors of government find what it has to say sensible, which is great.